Good evening, everyone. I'm Mohammed Al-Waid. I'm serving in the Ima Chapter Board as the Director of CPA Events. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining this free CPA event, which has been organized by the Ima Riyadh Chapter in cooperation with the Al Faisal University. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to deliver a special thanks to the management of Al Faisal University for awarding this opportunity to host this event. I'm glad to introduce Mr. Hassan Al-Bahas, who has been dedicated to the profession and serving the Ima Riyadh Chapter President since the past 4 years. I would like to invite him to welcome you on behalf of the Ima Riyadh Chapter.
السلام عليكم جميعا. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'd like, on behalf of you, to thank Mr. Jeff Thompson for taking the time. Every time he comes to the region, he dedicated the time for Riyadh Chapter, and this is really a privilege for us. He's been traveling a lot. We were in Jordan, Amman, and he's been in different cities, traveling early morning. So it's really appreciated that you are supporting Ima Riyadh Chapter. Nothing much to say, just to welcome him as well as welcome you. We have some people behind the scene as well. We have Jim, we have Ahmed Mkhallati. If you raise your hands, guys, thank you, or stand up, Jim, if you like, so people recognize you. Ahmed Mkhallati, where are you? Yes. Our support is coming from those gentlemen behind. We just, all the time, with their support, we are here to help you, help the finance community, male and female and male. So welcome again. I'd leave it for Mohammed Al-Awain. He's the VP of Education to introduce Mr. Jeff, and then we'll have the session. Our plan to have almost 90 minutes in general, just for Jeff to present the hot topic that go with current situation. So we talk about the future of accountants, our profession. Where are we heading? So we like to give enough attention and ask questions. We have the slip, the small papers that you can always write questions, and we will have the chance to get the mic and ask your question afterward. So we needed to be engaging session, but most questions will be pushed until the end of the session. Afterward, if you like to have some networking, after the session, you are most welcome to join and come in the front to talk to and shake hands with Jeff, as well among us and with the team. Thank you, and Mohammed, please.
Finally, I would like, it's our pleasure to introduce our key speaker, Mr. Jeffrey Thompson, the President and the CEO of Institute of Management Accountants, who will be taking us through our topic today, the future of accountants in the business. Before I hand the mic to Mr. Jeffrey, I would like to brief you on his profile, casting light on his professional experience, areas of expertise, and past projects. He is a certified management accountant, certified association executive, and certified strategy and competitive analysis, the new credential introduced by the IMA in 2017. Mr. Thompson, since assuming this position in 2008, he has led the development of a strategy resulting in the IMA becoming one of the fastest growing association in the world, with double digits in growth in the CMA program over the past 5 years. In January 2018, IMA crossed the 100,000 member mark for the first time in the organization history. During his previous position as the IMA Vice President of Research, Thompson conducted research studies, authored numerous articles and a book, delivered a dozen of presentations, and provided a testimony to the U.S. Congress in the areas of risk management, internal controls, and corporate governance. He served as a COSO board members from 2006 to December 2011, during a period when COSO experienced a growth in influential thought leader pieces and launched the internal control refresh initiatives. Thompson returned to the COSO board in 2018 for a 4-year term. Prior to joining IMA, he worked at AT&T for more than 2 decades, where he served various financial, strategic, and operational roles. One of these roles included serving as the strategic CFO for an $18 billion business unit. He was honored by Accounting Today by being included in the publication annual top 100 most influential people list for the last 5 years. He was also named by the Trust Across Americas as one of the top 100 thought leaders in trustworthy business behavior for 7 straight years, and was honored with the Organization Lifetime Achievement Award. The International Accounting Bulletin recognized Thompson in its global accountancy powers 50 list of leading influencers, and named IMA the 2017 Professional Body of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Bajas, he's the Dean of Business College, and he'd like to welcome all of us, including Mr. Jeff. So it's yours, please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa ahlan wa sahlan fikum fi Jamiat Al-Faisal. On behalf of the President of Al-Faisal University, I would like to welcome you for this important gathering. As you may know, through our executive education in the College of Business, we do offer CMA courses, and we have an excellent colleague of ours who leads that, Mr. Tim Douglas, right there. He's in the back. And we encourage you to visit our executive education site on the College of Business website, and feel free to contact the director of that program, Mr. Assam Juda. Also, we have very active MBA program, and we have the flyers there. If any of you is trying to pursue his or her MBA program, we have an MBA program in finance, as well as healthcare, as well as a generic MBA program. We also have very elitist and strong undergraduate accounting program. In fact, our graduates are always getting an employment with the top 4 accounting firms here in Riyadh. In fact, last year, the whole list was acquired by the royal court. They want them to work in the royal court. So you can see how much our accounting students are being sought after. And with that, I welcome you all, and ahlan wa sahlan fikum.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm not used to standing still, so we'll see how this goes. If I wander, somebody will have to remind me to go back to the mic, because this is being recorded and video recorded, so I'll do my best to stand still and have a really meaningful conversation. So it's a pleasure to be here again at this beautiful university with such wonderful friends and volunteers that I see year after year. You know, the talk today, as Hassan indicated, is about our future as professionals and as a profession. And like any storied profession, we always are trying to increase our relevance and our influence as individuals, as organizations, in service to society. And although you might think that this talk is going to be very much about technology, it really is more about talent and what we all must do together to step up our talent in a digital age. And when I think about what's happening here in the kingdom, and I've been here in Saudi and KSA for probably at least 10 times in the last 6 or 8 years, you know, I think about Vision 2030, right? The vision of creating a stronger, more robust, sustainable economy, moving from an oil-based economy to a knowledge-based economy, lowering unemployment, increasing participation of women in the profession, and more and more. And so this talk really goes at the heart of what we need to do, the call to action, the sense of urgency, to realize the vision of 2030. And my view of visions 2030, 2020, 2027 is you get extra credit if you achieve them early, right? So let's get on the path. Let's create a greater sense of urgency. And certainly, as you're going to see, the digital age is creating some risk and some opportunity. But it's only opportunity if we seize it by creating new and expanding skill sets. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is a lot of what you heard around data analytics and big data, but I'm going to try to bring it down to a more specific level of detail. Now, although I am speaking to you as CEO of IMA, and by the way, how many CMAs do we have in the room? Raise your hand. Wow. How many CMA candidates do we have in your room? Wow. Oh, I'm a CMA, sorry. That's great. So I'm your CEO, and as your CEO, I get the opportunity to interface with hundreds of CEOs and CFOs around the world. But I've also walked in the shoes of a CFO, as that kind introduction indicated. Was a CFO at AT&T in one of our major business units, just as we were evolving to a business partner concept, which is where the CFO serves as a strategic business partner to the business. Very, very important move, right, in the evolution and expanding, evolving role of the CFO team. But the other bit of background for you is that my bachelor's and my master's degrees are actually in mathematics and statistics. And I picked up a lot of accounting along the way. So as you're going to see, I'm a real believer that the fusion and mutual dependency of analytics and our great profession, finance and accounting, is critically important in this digital age. And so the title of the talk is Thriving in the Digital Age. But when you see headlines, you see things like automation and anxiety, right? You see 60, 80% of finance jobs will be lost. You see headlines like bracing for technology. But that's kind of the pessimist view of looking at automation and blockchain and all these other things. The optimist way of looking at it is thriving and embracing technology, not bracing for technology. The opportunity that automation brings to us. And in order to realize these opportunities, though, in a very, very competitive environment, geopolitical risk, trade issues, untraditional, non-traditional competition, consumers and customers who are getting more and more sophisticated in their needs and wants, it's harder and harder to earn a sustainable profit. So we need every bit of differentiation we can get in business today. And talent is absolutely part of the equation. But it doesn't come easy. We've got to do something about it. We've got to be on a mode of continuous learning and growth every day. I've learned personally more about blockchain, artificial intelligence, cognitive computing, machine learning, RPA, robotics process automation, IPA, intelligent process automation. Now, I don't understand all the technologies. I don't necessarily believe that we need to be first mover as businesses on all of these technologies, but one thing I know for sure, we have to be first mover on learning about these technologies and how they could help to create differentiated value for myself and my personal brand and the organizations in which we work. And another upfront comment that I'll make is there was a book written by a pretty well-regarded professor at Babson College in the U.S., Tom Davenport, and the title of the book is Competing on Analytics, The New Science of Winning. Competing on Analytics, The New Science of Winning. This book was actually written over a decade ago, but it talks about analytics as enabling a competitive edge. It's not talking about target marketing and new products and services, innovation, all the things that you think about when you think about winning in the market, and they absolutely are ingredients in terms of winning in the market, but just think about that. Data analytics, competing on analytics, the new science of winning. And that's what this talk is all about. Now, as you're going to see, and I'm actually going to move forward on some slides in a few moments, but I like to give you the big roadmap, the big picture. We talked earlier about the relevance and influence of this great profession that we're all engaged in. But again, if you read some of the headlines, robo-accountant, robo-advisor, in 10 years, 60 to 80% of jobs will be lost. And you're thinking about, well, what's our future? If all of these jobs are going to be lost or replaced or displaced. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum and you say, well, better jobs are going to be created, more value-adding jobs, more insight and foresight to the business as business partners. But then we say, well, wait a second, that's too much change for us as individuals or as a profession. We're accounting people. We love IFRS. We live and breathe IFRS and GAAP and internal controls attestations. That's our comfort zone. We're not data analysts. We're not data scientists. But my belief is that if we are going to thrive in a digital age and increase our relevance and influence over the long term, we need to learn and adapt as individuals and as a profession in areas such as data science, advanced data analytics, not basic data analytics, advanced data analytics, in data visualization, in storytelling. All of these competencies, we have it in us to learn and adapt to. Now, am I saying that accountants and finance professionals in industry need to become PhD statisticians? No. Am I saying that we should know business statistics? Am I saying that every university in the world should minimally, in their accounting program, have courses in business statistics? Yes, I am. Because think of it this way. Think about your future relevance and influence and that of our profession. If in fact we're losing or displacing or replacing jobs at the more routine, repetitive transaction level, and we decide to outsource data science or not step up to data science at the upper end of the value spectrum, if we outsource it to consultants, if we outsource it to IT, what's left of our profession and our influence? So, this talk, as I said, is much, much more about talent and competency than it is about technology. So, lots of headlines. And look, there's some hype out there. In any evolution of technology, there's always going to be some hype. But one thing that we can do as smart analysts who know how to ask the questions and work and communicate with IT and IS is to cut through the hype and find the gold. Find the value in all of those technologies that I rattled off. And I didn't even talk about education delivery, which is a commodity. Things like gamification and game-based learning. Different experiential ways that, by the way, appeal to millennials and consumers. But will there be enough work for human to do? Robots are coming. Finance teams face budget cuts. Right? And of course, history has taught us to be adaptable. And that's another key part of my message. We as a profession and we as individuals must be adaptable if we're going to keep pace with the rapid pace of digitization and digitalization, let alone get ahead of it. I remember on the far left there, that big box computer. When I was at AT&T, I was so excited. We bought NCR, the big computer company, and I ordered my very first computer, which I got an employee discount. And I remember the service, the driver service, or delivery service, sorry, came, and I thought they were delivering like 5 TVs. I had boxes and boxes and boxes, and there was the CPU and the screen, and now you've got your devices in front of you, right? You can get everything I used to be able to get on that big box machine, and we adapted, right? Businesses adapted, and so we must adapt as individuals and as a profession. Evolve or get left behind. On the upper right, the individual says, you know what? I'll let IT take care of it. We'll let them do the data analytics and the data mining. It's not part of what I was trained to do as an accountant. I don't believe that's the right mental philosophy, right? It may have not been part of our growing job responsibilities and future 5 years ago, but it is now, and it will be in the foreseeable future. The individual on the left says, you know what? I see what's happening here. I'm going to take an advanced analytics course, and I'm going to work with IT and senior management to implement a cross-functional data analytics function. IT, speaking with finance, speaking with accounting. Now look, I know this is change. It's change for all of us. I've been in your shoes. I've been a finance manager. I've been an accounting manager. I've been controller, CFO, etc. I know that change is not easy. And change has to happen in the whole ecosystem, as we'll see in a moment, not just at the individual level and the company level to embrace data analytics and how intertwined it is with finance and accounting and business partnering, but at the university level. I believe that universities, as I alluded to earlier, must incorporate directly into the accounting curriculum, not as an elective, but directly into the accounting curriculum, specific courses in statistics, data analytics, data visualization, and more. Now, does that mean I'm suggesting less financial accounting, compliance, audit, tax? No. But I'm talking, let's get closer to what we really do. Not just closing the books and filing the internal controls attestation. We do so much more. So we should be teaching what we actually do as professionals, which is becoming much more interdisciplinary. So I want to get to know the lady who made the comment on the lower left, as opposed to the guy kicking back on the upper right. So, everyone must pivot to technology. So we've got all the different generations. So look, in the Gen Y, the upper right slice, and then the lower right slice. We already know that the millennials, the Gen Z, the under 21, are coming in high tech, high expectations, corporate social responsibility. So they get technology. They grew up in technology, right? When we talk about our, when we show them pictures of computers like I got 25 years ago, they can't believe it. They think we live in a dinosaur age, right? Telephone booths and telephones and things that we used to do and take for granted. They didn't grow up in that age. So they come in, the millennials, the under 21 come in, full expectations of a digital savvy organization. But the challenge is in Gen Y and Gen X that we learned to use and apply technology as consumers in a different way, and we were trained as professionals in a different way. And so the need to upskill or add skills or learn new skills is critically important for that mid-level, ages, say, 21 through 34 and into the 40s. Now, the responsibility of the boomers, let's say those that are in senior positions, and they don't necessarily have to be boomers. At a certain age, you can become CFO or very senior position of responsibility at a much younger age. But people in leadership positions have a leadership responsibility to drive a culture of data, fact-based and data-driven decisions, of understanding or hiring people that understand structured versus unstructured data, executive leadership in leading digital transformation efforts. Remember, competing on technology, competing on analytics, the new science of winning. And again, that book was written 10 years ago. Tone at the top and governance is talked about a lot. I think for a data-driven culture to work down at the grassroots level, the CEO and the board of directors have to buy in because it requires investment. It requires investment in tools and platforms and in people, right? So, I've already given the key messages and I'm just trying to reinforce them, and we'll get into more and more detail as we go forward, but just for the record, the key messages are, look, automation is a good thing. Automation is not new. If you go back to the industrial revolutions, and automation has been with us for a long time, and you'll see a short video in a few minutes on that. And it's a good thing because it results in operational efficiency. As CEOs, as CFOs, as controllers, I want to be part of an organization that believes in sustaining its earnings and its profits and runs efficiently and lean. Right? Now, it might mean headcount changes or headcount shifts, but long-term for investors, shareholders, stakeholders, it's good for business. And the last point I make is, look, we have a great profession. I've been in it a long time, but we're known for a lot of wonderful things: commitment to ethics, transparency, but we're not necessarily known for our agility and our adaptability. And we've got to get over that. We've got to get over that as a community. And hopefully in just a small way, this talk will get us there, just in a small way. So I'm a little dramatic, a little bit of reality TV in that first point, but if we want to be opportunistic versus risk-averse, we must learn new competencies now. We must develop capability now, because the rate of change of automation and technological advancements is mind-boggling, unprecedented. I went to a forum just a week ago before I flew out here to the Middle East for this 10-day trip, or 8-day trip, and I attended a forum, an analytics and technology forum at Rutgers University in New Jersey in the US. And I learned 2 new terms that I didn't know if they were consulting terms or like really new terms, really new technologies and capabilities. So this environment is moving so quickly. One term, by the way, was intelligent process automation. I hadn't come across that term per se, and what I learned was that intelligent process automation is robotics process automation, which can kind of spider into your ERP and perform routine tasks within defined parameters. And intelligent process automation just broadens the range of possibilities for automation in bank reconciliations, for example. So just Google on it, intelligent process automation. The other term that I learned that I kind of thought I knew what it was process mining. Process mining, which is increasingly being used by auditors. It's where data mining meets business process management. Today, when you want to document business processes before you can improve them, you interview people. You sit down and you lay out process flows and document the as-is and what will be and who owns what. And as I understand it, process mining actually is data mining through ERPs and CRMs to self-document for auditors at a station what's being done in the bank reconciliation process or in the segregation of duties, internal controls. Now, do I really understand everything I just said? No. But we've got to be in learning mode. We've got to get ahead of these technologies so that we don't fall behind. So, call to action for relevance, and today's CFO team must evolve to become DFO team, the digital financial officer. Seems like the CFO is being called everything but chief financial officer. I was at a session yesterday, and the CFO is referred to as the chief forefront officer. First and foremost, we're fiduciaries of the corporation, right? But we've got to evolve. We absolutely have to evolve. Okay, I already said the first point, if we outsource data analytics at the higher end of the spectrum and at the lower end of the spectrum, jobs are being lost. What's left, right? So I think what's left is we want to increase our relevance. So we all know the value chain is going digital, and there's so much hype out there and so much there to read that when you're locked into a business trying to create value or conduct audits and dealing with regulators, you don't have time to deal with all the hype. But here's just one example. So how many people in this room have heard of Excel? So you're like, what is this guy, tired, jet lag, asking such a silly question? I wanted to see if you were awake. How many of you have heard of or used another analytics tool or software called R? The letter R. Okay. Not too many. And my point is that R, the letter R, is an open source analytics tool and capability that's increasingly being taught to undergraduate millennials that arguably has significant analytics capability for end users like us. Now, we have a CMA who's on our technology committee, Dan Smith, who programs in R and is helping to teach me and others R so that we can see whether or not this analytical tool for forecasts, regressions, correlations, a little bit of data mining could create competitive differentiation for IMA and its members. I don't know, but I'm exploring. I'm exploring. That's what this is all about, to keep ahead and stay relevant. So as it relates to Excel, there's all kinds of arguments. Is Excel dead? Should it be dead? Why don't we mine the capabilities in Excel? right? Stop using Excel, reports of Excel death are greatly exaggerated. That's not the argument. First thing is, are you mining and leveraging the full capability of your current tools, whether it's Excel or your ERP? And the answer is probably not. Most organizations are probably leveraging at most 80% of what's in their ERP or tools like Excel. And the other 20, 30% are usually in the area of business intelligence and data mining, deep data analytics. So there's a lot of hype out there. Okay, so we're going to see, hopefully it'll work, a 5-minute video that will talk about automation then and automation now and why they're different.
Every human being can have a ton of hours to survive, but humans are smart, we're lazy, so we need tools to make our work easier. From 6 cloud trackers we thought for everyone needs to include, to modern agriculture, to almost everyone needs to include. And yet, we still have abundance. Of course, it's not just farming, it's everything. For the last several thousand years, we built tools to produce physical labor of all kinds. These are our kind of muscles, stronger, more reliable, and more tireless than human muscles ever do. And that's a good thing. For raising human labor with kind of muscles, breeds people specialize, and that keeps everyone better off, even those still doing physical labor. This is how economies grow, standards live rise. Some people specialize to be programmers and engineers whose job is to build the kind of mind, such as the kind of muscles making labor less in demand, so are kind of minds making human brain labor less in demand. This isn't another revolution. You may think we've been here before, but we haven't. This time is the difference. When you think of automation, you probably think of this giant, custom-built, expensive, efficient, but really dumb robots flying to the world in their own world. They were a very kind of automation, but they haven't taken over the world because they're only cost-effective in narrow situations. But they're the old kind of automation. This is the new kind. Meet Baxter. Unlike these things which require skilled operators and technicians and millions of dollars, Baxter has vision and can learn which options to use by watching you do it, and then process the average annual salary of a human worker. Unlike his older brothers, he isn't programmed for one specific job. He can do whatever work is within the reach of his arms. Baxter is what might be thought of as a general purpose robot, and general purpose is a big deal. There is this notion that just a kind of muscle allows us to produce thinking jobs, that kind of mind will allow us to produce creative work. But even if we assume that the mind is actually creative, it's not, so just the same argument. Artistic creativity is the majority of jobs tend up. Another writers and poets, directors, actors, artists, who actually including doing their work is a tiny portion of the labor force. And given that these are professions dependent on popularity, they'll always be a very small portion of the population. There can't be such a thing as a poem in an easy-based economy. Oh, by the way, this music that I really listen to is a revival lot. Her name is Ima Leadership. She writes music all day for free. And people can't tell the difference between her and any composer and those who are on task. Talking about artificial creativity gets weird fast. What does that even mean? But nonetheless, it's a developing field. People used to think that playing chess was a unique creativity skill that she's in their view, right until the point they beat the best of us. And so it will go for all human talents. Right. The thing about the and you might want to reject it. It's easy to be cynical of the endless and idiotic predictions of the future that there never are. So that's why it's important to emphasize again that this stuff isn't science fiction. The robots are here right now. There is a terrifying amount of working automation in labs and warehouses around the world. We have been through economic revolutions before, but the robot revolution is different. Horses aren't unemployed now because they got lazy as a species. They're unemployable. There's little work that a horse can do to gain work housing and hay. And it's right, perfectly capable humans will find themselves in the new horse. Unemployable through no fault of their own. But if you still think the new job will save us, here's one final point to consider. You.
Okay, I'm going to just cut it a minute short. So don't feel bad if you didn't pick all that up. Even for somebody like me from New Jersey, that order speaks like really quickly. But there's a couple of main points that I wanted to make. First, early on, they said, we've always been subject to automation, or there's always been automation. There's always been robots that, or machines, or automation, or AI that does things, but this time it's different. And the difference is the robots are smart robots. Remember I said robotics process automation versus intelligent process automation, things that take the robotic mechanical aspect within a very narrow range and expand the range of things that the robot can do using using language processing, cognitive computing. So now we've got machines and robots that can think and adapt, right? But I always step back and I say, who programmed IBM Watson, right? Who did that? Was it another robot? No. So, but this time it is different. That's why we're seeing things move at an accelerating exponential pace, because now robots and AI and everything else are becoming intelligent, not just being used for manual labor. And then the other point, when you saw the horse rolling around there, horses aren't used as much as they are anymore, not because they're lazy, but because they're unemployable, right? They're unemployable, and we don't want to be in that situation where we're unemployable. Process mining and chatbots and other sorts of things are absolutely going to reduce headcount in customer service and even in the audit function. And then we say, well, customer service people, now they can be proactive business development people. Instead of answering basic inquiries, they can go on the offensive and do selling and business development and relationship management. What about the auditor? Well, now the auditor will have more time to be analytical and professional skeptics, but only if that customer service person and that auditor or that person in FP&A doesn't become like the horse, unemployable due to no fault of their own. But we've got to take the initiative. So there are some, we'll make sure this presentation is available to you all. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on various use cases. And look, we've always had automation in the book close process, automated close, blockchain. One thing about blockchain, and again, this is not a talk on technology, it's a talk on talent. But how many of you would say you have not an expert knowledge of blockchain, but a high-level awareness of blockchain? How many in the room? Okay, so there's a lot of opportunity for you to learn more about blockchain. Blockchain goes by several names, and in the next version of this presentation, I'm actually going to include it as an appendix, but blockchain is referred to as things like distributed ledgers and smart contracts, where in a transaction or a process, buying a house, closing on or dealing with a debt covenant, a legal contract, there's a lot of players inside and outside of your home and outside your company that touch these transactions. Very inefficient, very insecure. So the idea of blockchain technology is to create a more secure, trusted source of supply chain data, usually spanning outside the organization. So, but there is some hype with blockchain. Some organizations have not realized efficiencies from blockchain because sometimes it turns out that centralization is more effective and efficient than distributed platforms. Another fallacy of blockchain is that it's referred to as like the truth serum, because no intermediary, like buying a house, think about all the people that are involved, buyer, seller, lawyers, real estate agent, no intermediary can check or change the data in the block, in the chain. And you say, wow, So now we're going to refer to blockchain as the truth serum. There was an article recently in The Economist that said the old saying or adage, garbage in, garbage out. If the blockchain has garbage in it, meaning unreliable, error-prone data, transaction data, all it's doing in encrypting and protecting is bad data, right? So I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we as a profession and organization shouldn't explore blockchain and other technologies to see if they can offer competitive advantage, but warning, there is some hype, and we've got to cut through the hype. So let's get more specific in terms of these competencies, much more specific. And then what is your association, your organization, what are we doing about it? What are we doing about it as part of this ecosystem, as part of the community? So I always refer to these 4 lines of sight. And I tell this little story at AT&T. I was really excited to get promoted to Chief Financial Officer of an $18 billion business unit. I was super excited. My boss calls me in. I kind of knew the news, and he said, "Congratulations, you've been promoted to Strategic Business Partner for sales, $18 billion. And I looked at him, and I didn't want to look disappointed. And I said, "Well, what exactly does that mean, and what is a strategic business partner?" This was back in the early 90s. I don't know what that means, and I really just want to be called CFO. I really just want to be called Chief Financial Officer. It took me a while, a lot of training. And so the evolution of the CFO and the CFO team to evolve beyond closing the books and filing the statutory reports and the internal controls has been underway for a while, different stages of maturity. So we're not only expected, generally speaking, to be value stewards as CFO teams, and value stewards is everything I just rattled off: statutory reporting, internal controls, attestations, tax, compliance, safeguarding of assets. But we're also expected to contribute to value creation, M&A, merger and acquisition activity, financial planning and analysis, management accounting. And so what this chart says is we're always expected to offer oversight and hindsight as finance and accounting professionals. That's the minimum expectation. That was yesterday's expectation. Oversight for funding, oversight for the planning process, oversight for liquidity and working capital, oversight for business cases and funding plans. Hindsight is statutory reporting, a look back so that we can accurately and fairly represent the financial condition of the corporation as a going concern, right? But it's hindsight. It's not bad, it's just what it is. But that's the minimum expectation. The expectation increasingly is that as finance and accounting professionals, as CFO teams, we also offer insight inside the numbers. What are the numbers telling us? What are they not telling us? What are some of the hidden gems in the data, realizing that data is now structured and unstructured? Social media data, right? It's almost impossible to keep up, right? Hence big data. And then foresight, insight, foresight are part of the new normal, the new set of expectations. Don't just tell me what happened and why it happened. Tell me what will happen and help me make it happen in terms of products, in terms of financial performance, in terms of new markets, new products. Many of you, several of you, know of our CFO at IMA, Doreen Remen. Lutfi Ashade in the front row from the Board of Regents, IMA Board of Regents, former member of the Global Board, knows Doreen well. Lutfi, raise your hand. Doreen I expect, and the board expects, Doreen to close the books on time with no internal control weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Guess what? And we're a multinational corporation with over 112,000 members, 100 countries. We're not AT&T or IBM or EY, but we're a multinational corporation. So my expectation, the board's expectation of Doreen, is not only the hindsight and the oversight, but she's also responsible for our strategic planning process. She's also responsible for our technology team. And since she doesn't have enough to do, we also throw in human resources and member services. That's the point. The new normal, the minimum expectation, but it just doesn't come because you say, hey, Jeff, you're a business partner. Hey, Doreen, we're going to give you this added responsibility. We have to adapt using all of our life and business experiences, and we must learn new skills. So let's get more specific. Before we get more specific, but actually this will help describe what some of these newer skills are. So a short 1-minute video. The good news is it's just music with words, so you don't have to. So what is data science? I've been throwing that term around very loosely. Data science is sort of the intersection of statistics, data and data applications, and what's called business domain. Now this is a pretty fundamental definition, but since data scientists are one of the top 5 hottest jobs that are trending in social media and in recruiting sites, I thought I'd use that. So first of all, starting from the bottom, business domain is understanding the business. Right? When you're a business partner in finance and accounting, or at any level, understanding the business is absolutely critical. When we hire, we're doing a lot of hiring at IMA these days because we're growing so quickly, and I'm part of the onboarding process of each and every one of them. When I sit down one-on-one with our new employees, I say, you're going to have plenty of time to learn the policies and the procedures and the practices and your day job of being in business development or marketing or finance. You're going to have plenty of time. Take the time to learn the business. Do a lot of listening. Ask a lot of questions. Understand the big picture. I just onboarded an individual in the Middle East region. And I said, obviously I want you to know this region inside out, but I want you to understand IMA Global, what our philosophies are, what our mission is, what's our core values, not just what's in our head, but what's in our hearts as a corporate organization. Take the time to learn the business. When I was this business partner CFO, I took the time to learn the business. That's how I became somewhat fluent in selling and marketing. Not because I ever took formal classes, or got an MBA, but because my experience allowed me to learn about those domains. So business domain, data and data applications. There is life beyond Excel. These are all learnable, and we can adapt to them through training and good instruction and well-regarded, fluent instructors, like Tim Douglas back there. And yes, statistics. Statistics. So I have taught undergraduate electives in the US in Business Statistics 1 and Business Statistics 2. The statistics is preceded by the word business, meaning as a math major, I took theoretical statistics, how and why things happen. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about applied statistics to help you in forecasting, to help you in anticipating and creating a future, correlation analysis, more and more and more. And this slide talks a little more about the data analytics ascendancy. So we start at the bottom with descriptive, and we work our way up to increased value. So and I'll repeat this a couple times because I'll try to give an example or two. Descriptive statistics answers what happened. That's important, but it is what it is. What happened? Diagnostic statistics answers why did it happen. And by the way, when I say what or why, let's say that we had an operational breakdown. Let's say that we had a major variance in our monthly reporting, income statement, balance sheet, funds flow, right? So the what, it could be operational or it could be financial, right? So let's just take the easiest one is a variance, a budget variance, right? And let's say it took us by surprise right before we're about to report our quarterly earnings. So descriptive statistics answers what happened, right? Actual is 10, budget is 14, missed by 4, 40% miss. Here's a really, really simple example I like to give students when I've taught statistics, business statistics in college. And I get them every time. I say, my actual revenue for the quarter was 10. My budgeted revenue was 8. And my variance is 2. Or, better example, let me use this other example. My actual revenue is 10. Last year's revenue is 9. That's a 10% or 11, I guess that would be 11% increase, right? Can't even do my own math. So I go from 9 one year in revenue to 10 the next year. And I say that's an 11% increase. Is that a good thing? It depends. Now, of course, the answer is yes, 11%, double digits. But what if the market grew 15%? I'm losing share. Why is that a good thing? Right? So, it's oversimplified, but descriptive statistics just answers what happened. My variance is 1, my variance is 4. Diagnostic statistics, why did it happen? On the CMA, we teach CVP, cost, volume, price, delta P, delta Q. If there's a revenue variance, I want to know how much is due to price, how much is due to volume, how much is timing, how much is operational. Why? Very, very important. But then the advanced analytics that I was describing earlier is predictive. Don't just tell me what happened and why it happened. Tell me what will happen. Predictive statistics, predictive analytics. More often than not, we use simple run rates, moving averages, and I believe in keeping it simple. But there's a technique that's been around since the beginning of time that we should be using more in FP&A, in forecasting and budgeting, called regression analysis. Regression analysis predicts a dependent variable based on several input or independent variables. So if I'm trying to predict revenue as the dependent variable, my independent variables could be pricing, could be macroeconomic indicators like consumer price index, inputs that predict outputs. You collect data, you correlate them together, and I'm really at the very, very basic level of predictive. There's so many, just Google on predictive analytics or search for predictive analytics. And then prescriptive analytics is how can I make something happening? One thing the CMA program, it tests for sensitivity analysis, looking at different sensitivities, varying inputs and seeing the impact on outputs. Simulation analysis, what's called Monte Carlo simulation, to simulate through different possibilities in the future so that we can make choices about certain outcomes the organization wants to achieve. Sensitivity, simulation, and scenario planning. You know, I love when I ask for a 5-year forecast and the team comes running in and they've got a 5-year forecast of membership or CMA candidates to 5 decimal places. I don't want point estimates 5 years out in time. We can't even be precise a month out in time. I want to see scenarios and options that we can choose pathways. I want to see scenarios. What happens if competition preempts us? What happens if this new technology disrupts us? What happens if we choose to invest and be a disruptor as opposed to being disrupted? What if, what if, what if? I want to see outcomes and choices and analytics and intuition. That's the new order. That's the new expectation. So, data analytics, one point I wanted to make that I've been trying to make is, look, data analytics inside of finance, the finance supply chain, auditing, financial planning analysis, M&A, absolutely. But it also has significant use in supporting marketing, customer relationship management, target marketing, cross-selling, segmentation, customer lifetime value. You know, if we don't provide that analysis and analytics as F&A professionals to the marketing team, they'll do it on their own. We used to call that shadow finance. If we don't provide the capability, the analytics, the insight, the over and above the numbers, the product groups will do it, the operations groups will do it. And where's our relevance? Where's our relevance? So, robots can't do everything, right? We've already talked about that. So, what is IMA's role? So I wanted to expand a little bit more on what I mean by data and data analytics. So there's 3 levels of data science in this depiction. On the left, we have foundational skills that probably every job role needs to have some working knowledge of. How is data governed? Meaning ownership, responsibilities, data transfer. The data life cycle, from acquisition to reporting and analysis. Data security, data design, data cleansing, right? Foundational. Then we move up the value chain as we offer more and more insight and foresight to the analysis layer. Data mining, that I'll talk about in a moment. Extracting data using various analytical tools. Data query, data analytics, business intelligence. And then there's the delivery, right? I know back in the day, CFO teams weren't expected to be great deliverers to public, to investors, but they have to be today. Storytelling, visualization. You know, I just find it interesting that as we speak around the world, there's a board meeting, a financial review taking place. Why is it in a multi-dimensional world filled with complexities, many of those reviews are probably 2-dimensional? Actual budget variance by line item. And that's okay. But data visualization using tools like Tableau and Python allow you to visualize data not only to tell a story, but to glean insights from the data that may have not otherwise been possible. So check out some of these tools and capabilities. Thought I had a slide on data mining. Okay, before I talk about the competency framework, maybe it's coming up, a little bit about data mining. Look, at its most sophisticated level, data mining uses it trolls through structured and unstructured data to uncover patterns using advanced pattern recognition and other deep techniques that even as a statistician, I admit I don't understand. But I don't need to understand it. I need to know there's somebody that understands it, a PhD statistician, somebody that knows that the data is secure, that's trolling through my various ERPs and sales databases to uncover patterns that the human eye could not have uncovered. I'll tell you how we use data mining at AT&T. One way was in internal controls, a more traditional way, meaning mining through hundreds of thousands of employee expense reports and coming up with patterns and outliers and anomalies that could be fraud. But the other way we use data mining, and we were the ones in finance and accounting asking the questions to seek answers in the data. We didn't know what we were going to get. But we were getting beaten badly in the market by MCI WorldCom. Now, it turns out that we were getting beaten badly partially because of bad strategies we had, but also because MCI WorldCom was committing fraud. But we didn't know that at the time. So we were getting beaten badly in terms of market share and revenue. And we said we need to come up with a way to develop more sales leads for our sales force. And remember, when you think about a sales database, you have customer, you have subsidiaries, you have locations, you have multiple products, you have a lot of different dimensions. So basically what the data mining software did is it trolled through our structured Salesforce database, multi-dimensional, and uncovered incremental sales leads that we provided to the Salesforce to pull through. All right? So, do you have to be expert in all of the deep, deep analytics that underlie some of these capabilities and techniques? No. But do you have to have a working knowledge of them to see what kind of enhanced competitive advantage they can offer? I think you know the answer by now. So, IMA has had a competency framework out. We revised it. It's in the public domain, actually through today, technically, but if you go to IMA's website and you still want to comment on this competency framework, this competency framework has 6 broad categories of knowledge. Underneath a competency framework is specific jobs and specific competencies. And then the next step is to identify all the training and tools and educational programs that allow you to fill gaps at the individual level. So competency framework is kind of a high-level set of categories. One thing you notice about our management accounting competency framework is that you barely see the word accounting up there, right? So let's take a look at them upper left, moving clockwise. Strategic management. So yes, we talk about strategy and the growing role of the CFO team in setting, implementing, or communicating strategy. Certainly as you advance in your careers and you get closer and closer to advanced positions, if you so desire, you will getting more directly involved in strategy. Strategy management. Clockwise, moving to the right, reporting and control are the more traditional roles. But reporting isn't just reporting the financial, the statutory requirements, it's also integrated reporting and sustainability reporting and ESG, non-financial reporting. Who better than the CFO team who knows how to work with auditors to assure data? How many of you are familiar with the balanced scorecard or strategy map? Well, if you're CMA, you better raise your hand. Or a CMA candidate, right? Thank you, Lupi and others. The balanced scorecard says there's more to business performance than short-term financials. There's customer, there's employees, there's business model, there's innovation. So reporting and control isn't just reporting and control over financial, but over non-financial type measures. Business acumen and operations, supply chain, Six Sigma, lean techniques. And the newest domain in this enhanced, updated competency framework out for public disclosure or response is technology and analytics. We added a whole new domain, which means more courses, more training, more conferences, more. And you're going to be seeing a lot coming from your association. We owe it to you. If we're talking about being future ready and the future relevance of our profession, we owe it to you to do something about it and to be leaders. And I'll leave it to the market and our members to say whether or not we're leading or following or neither. This is all bound together in the middle by leadership. How many of you have taken at least one course from our webinar series, the IMA Leadership Academy? Good. Many of you know Mr. Budd, right? IMA Leadership Academy, nearly 30 courses, 90-minute courses, online and on demand, or I'm sorry, online and available for replay, in leading, influencing. We even have a course on dealing with difficult people. I'm sure you've never dealt with a difficult person, but if you do, take the course. So leadership, the soft skills, and then at the bottom, but paramount and foundational to all we do as professionals and as a profession, ethics. So these are the big 6 categories. And then as you bring it down lower and lower, it gets to the individual level, the individual job. What training to fill a gap that I feel I have? Now we have a lot of that today, but it's kind of scattered. So as you're going to be seeing a lot more coming out from IMA over the coming months. Okay, I'm not going to go through the specific knowledge, skills, and activities. 90-day public comment period. You could visit the website and look, if you say, hey, you know what, I'd like to take a look and comment to IMA. This has been open for 90 days. Please comment. We'll accept your input for another week. A lot of resources that we're offering and have offered, but we need more. So, the call to action, just to summarize. So this is a summary. Hopefully I've been consistent. And then we'll show one final video and then we'll take questions. So get your questions ready. So let's summarize. Let's look at the title. Is relevance going to be gained for us as individuals in a profession, or is it going to be lost? There's a fork in the road here. There's a choice we can make as individuals, as universities, as corporations, as professional associations. For individuals, adopt and adapt to new skills. For academia, better align what's taught versus what we actually do. Not everybody needs to know IFRS or GAAP or COSO internal controls. I'm not saying teach less of that. I'm saying teach more of what we do in addition to IFRS and GAAP and standards and controls. Because that's what the real world of finance and accounting professionals do. We need to create greater alignment. For corporations, remember, competing on analytics, the new science of winning, tone at the top, investing in technology, analytics, and talent. The new science of winning in a competitive age full of disruption. And then for me, for us, our obligation to you is to be part of the solution. Be part of the solution. Not just talk. Now, before we close with a little video on the CMA program, Many of you know, do we have any CSCAs in the room? Certified in Strategy and Competitive Analysis. Ooh, wow, good. How many? We have a handful. That's good. We'll take a picture together later. How's that? And we'll take other pictures. So I was in the first wave of CSCAs. CSCA is Certified in Strategy and Competitive Analysis. It's only available to CMAs. And who would have thought 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that the Institute of Management Accountants, and when we were formed nearly 100 years ago, the National Association of Accountants, who would have thought we'd be offering a specialized credential in strategy and competitive analysis? Well, that's because that's a competency that we're doing and evolving to or demonstrate at more senior levels in the finance chain, right? So check out the CSCA. All right, let me just describe this I think the last slide about the CMA program. You know, when I've gone around the world and our volunteers like Tim and Hassan and Lutfi and many, many others, I'm not going to name you all, we all hear the same thing. 5 years ago, 10. The CMA program is great, it's wonderful. Whether it was 5 parts or 4 parts or 2, it tests the kind of things that we need to test. It's got a top-notch board of regents. It's got a top-notch staff. So why is it the world's best kept secret? Why does nobody know about it? Right? And that was fair. And we still need to do more. But because we built up a strong balance sheet, remember I was a former CFO, so first and foremost I think cash is king and cash flow is king. But we built up, together with our board, strong financial reserves, not to have yachts and boats and airplanes, but to invest in the CMA program. And one of the things we've done for the last 3 years that's continued to result in double-digit growth in the CMA program, so we should all be proud of that, we've invested in ad campaigns. This is the 3rd year we're going to be launching an integrated global ad campaign that has TV in some markets, that has radio in some markets, that has print in some markets, and has social and digital in every market, including and especially this market. So this is, I'll play it twice, it's a 30-second TV ad that was filmed with professional directors, and it kind of plays on this theme of who's in charge here? Is the human in charge of programming and utilizing the value of the robot, or is the robot in charge?
One of the questions about financial accounts for solo robots, not just because that team will be great. If you've got to take question on size of anything we need, you've got to take a strategy and decision size of an area. Now we're together like hand in glove.
Except Canada has an office and doesn't.
Yeah, well, hand the CIA and glove doesn't. So, the CIA certification, you've got to earn it.
So, a couple things. One on the little bit playful, right? But serious but playful with the message. We came up with a tagline, you've got to earn it. You know, of the, 60,000 CMAs we've minted? I should probably know that. We've minted 60,000 CMAs. We've minted since inception of the program 45 years ago. No grandfathering. Every single person that earned their CMA over the course of 45 years took an exam, at least 2 exams, had an education requirement and an experience requirement, except for one person. And it's not Tim, it's not Lutfi, it's not me. The founder and creator of the CMA program back 45 years ago, James Bullock, I don't know the whole story, But they said, hey, you know, this guy came up with the exam, we'll make him a CMA. I think he earned it. But all the other 59,999 or whatever the number is had to earn it. It's a little bit of play, a little bit of a competitive edge there. The other point I'd like to make is, in advertising terms, this is called air cover, mass marketing, gets you in the door. But we also need a ground game, meaning ambassadors on the ground. Every one of you has a circle of influence. When you see this ad or go to YouTube and get the video, it's live, share it, like it with your circle of influence. That's the ground game, the grassroots, CMA candidates. You're the ambassadors that are going to spread the word, right? They're going to create greater awareness of management accounting and the CMA program. So, with that, I don't have any more slides, so that means I'm done. And I think, time did we, I think I'm good on time, right? Okay. All right, so how are we going to work the questions? I think we have some mics. Hassan, and I think you said something about writing down stuff.
Hi, this is Ahmed. I'm accountant at Private Industry Researcher. My question is, as you know, the machine will be replace us in the future if we didn't improving our skills. So the machine requires as an advisor to improve learning from this machine. So which type of skills that accountants need to make their experience with IT as a data analyzer or something? So let me explain it more clearly. Which skills is required for accountants in the future? Thank you.
So yeah, I'm having a little problem with the hearing the question, because of the vibration. So was the question the skills that accountants need in the future? But I think it was more sophisticated than that.
The skills which is required for accountant to advise the machine need advice.
All right, good, thank you. I just want to make sure. So, yeah, so the question is, skills that accountants need to acquire to advise the machine, to kind of be in charge of the machines. So there's going to be a combination, right, that we've kind of talked about, of business domain knowledge, so awareness and understanding of the business. Look, we know machines increasingly can learn and adapt, and they could mine through masses of data much faster than we could, as the ad indicated. But they don't have the capability to think beyond a range of specifications. So the more adaptability and experience, so there's some experience and some learned. The experiential side is, I take the philosophy that, I just don't learn my job, I learn the business, right? Take the time to learn the business. I know it's hard, pressures and all that. So there's part of it that's experiential and allows you to adapt. Judgment, you just don't become, professional judgment just doesn't come to you. It comes through experience, but there's also a level of learned knowledge. I tell people this following, not to show how old I am, but I earned all 3 of my professional certifications past the age of 50. All right? I am personally trying to do my best to understand these technologies, even though I'm not necessarily a technical person, right? And my team is trying to do the same thing. And we're doing that because if we're going to be better advisors, before we get into the technical tools, which is much easier, we need to understand the big picture, the value. But make no mistake about it, to then apply that, we've got to have people, staff, ourselves, who know how to apply, whether it's R or Python or Tableau. So it's a combination of experiential, the business savvy, the acumen, the adaptability, and learned. Because I don't want you to think that learning kind of stops because you've hit a certain level. You've become partner, you've become CFO, you become CEO. In many ways, learning just begins. Same thing with CMA. You know, the end of the journey isn't when you become a CMA. I mean, it's a proud moment and a milestone to applaud and be proud of, but it's the beginning of a new journey. So I hope I answered the question. So is the name of the university important or relevant in getting your CMA? So just as a reminder, you know, more on the technical aspects of the program, to become a CMA, as I said earlier, you have to pass 2 rigorous tests. You have to have experience requirement of 2 years, and you have to have a bachelor's degree in any field, and I think we say from an accredited institution. And you know, accreditation has different meanings around the world, so the Board of Regents tends to be flexible. But the name of the university, its status, is not particularly relevant. So bachelor's degree in any field from an accredited or equivalent institution. And by the way, you know, the name of the school is really more up to you in terms of its reputation, its comprehensiveness. You know, one thing that IMA does that I want to mention while I'm here, and this may be, you know, for the faculty, perhaps from other universities, is IMA has a higher education endorsement program where we independently evaluate the accounting curriculum, and generally speaking, if there's a 75% overlap between the CMA body of knowledge and your undergraduate or master's level accounting program, we endorse the school. That's good for the school, and that's good for IMA, and we hope good for the faculty and the students. So thank you.
My name is Benoit. I would like to thank you first on the session. It was very informative. Second, I have a couple of questions on a bit of time here. The first question is, how do you foresee the future CFOs? So do you think they are going to be accountants with some knowledge of data science, or vice versa? So the second question is a clear one.
So great question, and so the first question, just to repeat it, I think that was pretty clear, but just in case you're experiencing the same noise issues I am, you know, will the CFO of the future, like what, you know, will they have to be an accountant? Will they have to be a data scientist? And, you know, I think the direction that I'm suggesting here is that, look, I don't necessarily expect people that are CFOs today to go out and become data scientists. But I'll tell you what I expect of my CFO, and in the spirit of a data-driven culture, I've actually put in her goals that we form a formal data analytics center of excellence that spans finance, accounting, IT, etc. So remember the slide that said, you know, everybody needs to know technology or analytics at some level? At some level, I think if the CFO is going to be in the position of not only closing the books and doing the compliance stuff, but helping to guide the future, I would suggest that CFO, that controller, that financial executive needs to know enough to at least ask the right questions, to at least get the competency. Now, newer CFOs in the funnel, in the process, have a little bit more runway, a little bit more opportunity. So I do think that it's a little dangerous to say, well, I'm just going to hire smart people and let them do it. I'm just going to hire a good controller. Sarbanes-Oxley 404 basically puts the CFO in the hot seat, skin in the game accountability on internal controls. No longer can the CFO say, well, I got a controller to do it. I didn't know what he or she was doing. And I'm not suggesting that same level of assurance for other areas of competence like data science, but I think there has to be a working knowledge to hire the right people, to ask the right questions. But as I said, people that are earlier stage will need to have the opportunity to learn and take courses and learn tools. So, and what was your second question?
All right, just one more question. Regarding in the market, do you see it, is it decreasing the creation of jobs for accountants? And if you can elaborate more about the certified strategy and competitive analysis, how it will help the CFOs or like fresh accountants and mid-term accountants in their job career? Thank you.
So, the first question is, there's all kinds of predictions as to the pool of accountants needed in the future. And, they range from small to large, right? Estimates, Bureau of Labor Statistics says, there'll be 10, 15% growth in accounting type jobs. Different sources, depends on the local economies, depends on a whole bunch of short and longer term micro and economic factors. But one thing I know for sure is that there's no downside in job opportunities if we look ahead and step into these newer skills or expanding skills in FP&A and M&A and analytics and all the things that I talked about. No downside, meaning there's greater assurance that we'll have job opportunity and job growth if we upskill at wherever we are. If we're mid-level, if we're junior, if we're senior, upskill, create, embrace new skills. Because the supply chain has become more interdependent, the value chain more interdependent on various departments and business lines, we as professionals must become more interdependent. So it's just like in internal controls where I can't give absolute assurance, I can only give reasonable assurance that our prospects and our growth will be greater if we acquire at least working knowledge of data science and probably more for certain job roles. And where the CSCA helps, our one-year-old credential in strategy and competitive analysis for CMAs is, again, we hope that adds value to your CMA as you get more involved, potentially, in strategy, either setting the strategy, implementing the strategy, and/or communicating the strategy. So, great question, thank you. Great questions, I should say.
Hello. Thank you for your informative session. I'm Nujayna Asab, a fresh graduate accountant, and I just want to know the relevant experience for getting a CMA. It should be an accounting role or finance, or no problem if we're coming from a management consultant background. And how do you think CMA can help me if I'm thinking of taking this role in the future? Am I audible?
So let me answer that. Good question. Questions, actually. So the question was on the experience requirement. So as I mentioned, to become a CMA, there's 3 things you need to do. By the way, what I didn't mention, of course, that you know as CMAs is once you're a CMA, you have a commitment to continuous learning and growth with 30 CPE credits per year. The experience requirement of 2 years is pretty flexible. It's pretty flexible. It can be in accounting, it could be finance. It usually can be in management consulting, I think was your question. So it's not totally open-ended. So if, let's say you spent 2 years in, doing social media, that probably wouldn't qualify, right? But management consulting, I would say generally speaking would. And then, the CMA program is designed to help you differentiate yourself and get a job and keep a better job and build a career. And quite frankly, earn more money. At the end of the day, though, it's up to the individual and their own personal brand and their own initiative. But we have a lot of resources for you as a CMA to help tell your story to your employer, to a prospective employer. And when I have looked at hundreds of resumes over the years. I'm sure Hassan has, I'm sure many of you have that are in more senior roles. And they all begin to look alike, right? And so when I see somebody has not only gotten a bachelor's in accounting from a great university, or a master's in accounting, but they have a professional certification, the more differentiation, the better. And it also is a conversation starter. Hey, I don't know about the CMA, well, I'm going to describe it. So that is our goal and that is our obligation to improve your value, realizing that it's really up to you. Did you have another? Hopefully I answered your 2 questions. Good.
Yes. Okay, allow me just to ask a question. Yeah. And then for those who like to have specific questions, we have the time afterwards, so we'll be around afterward. So last question, the quick question, please. Who has the mic? Yes, make it quick, please, and straightforward.
Hello. Hi, I'm Ajmal, and I'm working as a chief accountant in a restaurant chain. My question is, like you mentioned, that IT should be parallel with the finance. In an SME, do you think the IT departments should be directly reporting to the finance controller or the CFO?
Great question. I think my ears have calibrated to the noise here, so I'm actually understanding the questions better. Sorry about that. You work in a restaurant chain, and actually there's a couple interesting things in your question about who should report. Is finance and IT at the same par, at the same level? Should IT report into finance? What about SMEs, small, medium-sized organizations, or small, medium enterprises? So one thing I can tell you is that the CFO increasingly is becoming more of a hub. So you generally, I don't know of a single case where the CFO reports to the CTO. Chief Financial Officer reporting to the Chief Technology Officer. I've seen plenty of cases where the Chief Operating Officer, the Chief Technology Officer reports to the CFO. And that's because more and more, as the CFO role and expectation has expanded, the CFOs have picked up more and more, generally speaking. It's going to vary where you are in the world. So, but underneath the day-to-day, it's not, who's more important. The CFO is a natural hub because of the nature of their experience and what they're asked to do. When you're asked to follow the money and report the money and the cash and income and balance sheet, by definition, you're getting connected to the value of the company. And you're involved in discussions about how money is spent, how it should be spent. So the CFO is special and his or her team in that way. But in terms of the day-to-day, like at IMA, I don't view our finance team any more or less important than our IT team. They're both incredibly valuable. But you really bring up a good point, or implied a point, in terms of SME, small, medium-sized enterprises. How can you afford, we've got a owner, that barely listens to us when we talk about internal controls. Now I'm going to be talking to him about analytics, right? So there's a piece of this that says making the case. But, even though IMA is a multinational corporation around the world, we're still a relatively small staff. And we're looking into a lot of these technologies. We're looking to apply these analytics because we believe they will add differentiated value. But we need to make the case to our board and to our members. So if you hear that this technology, this analytics doesn't apply because we're too small, don't necessarily believe it. Investigate it. Because who wouldn't want to be a hero? Who wouldn't want to go to that business owner and say, hey, aren't you happy we've cut our close cycle down to 3 days, or we've saved the company 28% because we're processing transactions or bank recs more efficiently, and that's 28% more we can spend on serving customers and creating new products, right? So you have to make the story, make the case, tell the story, deliver. Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jeff, again. Many thanks for being a great audience. I hope you find it useful. As Jeff mentioned, we'll have all the slides and information available in our website. You have the registration. Those who have attended, you can always go back to the website. Just add your name, your email, and you can have the certificate either in the soft or you can print it in your own. We'd like just to appreciate or recognize the efforts of Faisal University, and I still have Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Wadrani here. If you'd like to join us, Dr. Abdulaziz, on the stage, or just to stand up for people to say thank you to you on behalf of the university, along with the team. Of course, we have Hassan, we have a lot of other teams, so much appreciated for supporting the professional support Riyadh chapter. Behind us, and in front of you, but behind us, real professionals who work hard and bring Riyadh chapter to where it is now, and we feel like we are doing great with those professionals. So I'd like to welcome all of them, or invite them to come to the stage. All IMA Riyadh members, current and the last round. So we have the current round, and this is, by the way, the first session for this round, 18-19 round. So we like to invite you all to come over, so we don't have to call name by name. So all members to come to the front, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Thank you, Faisal University, for hosting this event. My name is Ahmed Mukhallabi, Director of Regional Partners Relations. Before I start distributing the certificate or handing the certificates to Jeff to hand it out, I'd like to share a little history about the first gentleman that we can be extended the certificate of appreciation. A genuine gentleman, professional, met about 7-8 years ago. We met when we were discussing the CMA certification, and the objective at the time, and still up to this moment, is how to enhance the qualifications of accountants and financial professionals in business. Up to this day, we still carry that flag, how to work and help out accounting and finance community. It's with great pleasure to extend the first certificate of appreciation to Mr. Hassan Al-Bahiz, President of the IMA Chapter, Riyadh. The next certificate of appreciation goes to Mr. Cliff Douglas, who has been very instrumental in creating the awareness of the CMA certification and teaching the CMA course at Al Faisal University in Saudi Arabia.
Excuse me?
I'd like to call Mr. Dr. Muhammad Nur al-Nabi. I haven't seen him over here. I don't think he's over here.
Just for the picture. Mr. Nabi could not make it.
Mr. Salahuddin Muhammad. Mr. Abdul Aziz Al-Khawishi. Mr. Abdullah bin Muhammad. Mr. Hafiz Omar Nasir. Mr. Muhammad Taymour. Ali Munir. Mr. Muhammad Al-Awaid. Abdul Aziz Al-Fahid. Mr. Manar Al-Burmi. Mr. Muhammad Yusuf. And Idris Yassin Zubair.
Excuse me?
Just to say what to say thank you. So we need in the picture. Come
تعالوا ونصور. محمد اعطيه خليه يصور. تعال
الله يعطيك العافيه شكرا. ليش هل بتجنبني ولا كانت ميك ما تجي كويس ترى
لا ممتازة طلع ممتاز. طلع واضحة. ممتاز.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.